Week one of the college football season was wild, and with that, there's been a shakeup in the Heisman Trophy odds. Now, as you remember, entering the season, Texas Longhorn star Arch Manning was a clear-cut favorite to bring home college football's most prestigious award. But after a disappointing debut in the top-ranked Longhorns' opening weekend loss, his odds plummeted 16-1, as you see there. Garret Nussmeier surged to the top after leading LSU to a season-opening win over Clemson with the best odds at plus 700. But, there's a lot of talk. There was no value going with Arch Manning to start the season. Maybe there is now. I don't know. We'll find out. For much more on our Heisman risers and followers after week one of the college football season, we say hello to Mackenzie Brooks, Danny Kanell, Chip Patterson. We got the whole crew here. Danny, I want to begin with you. Arch Manning, as I mentioned, opened the season with the shortest odds to win the Heisman. He's now fallen 18-1. Before the season, we were saying that there's no value in taking him to win, but now is it time to jump in? How much confidence do you have after that week one performance?
So I was telling everybody before the season, don't throw your money away on Arch Manning at 7-1. I thought that was horrendous value, and I also did not think he would play great against Ohio State. First start in a massive, stadium where it's loud, you can't hear anything. Was not surprised. I am still not. I think Texas is going to be in for a bumpy year. When I say bumpy, I think they're 9-3 and they missed the playoffs because Arch Manning still has some really tough environments to go into, including the next time he faces a big opponent, which is they have 3 games and then they have to go to Gainesville. I don't know how that unfolds for him. We'll see. But if you are an Arch Manning believer, and yes, he could get better and he still has the brand recognition, then I do think now would be the time to get him, because if he does lose to Florida, I think he's out of the race completely. So this might be the best value, because I would have to think that Steve Sarkisian wants to build up his confidence, which looked completely shot in that opener. For the next 3 weeks, statistically, he should play himself back into the conversation. Relevance, you won't be playing on the big stage, but he'll still be talked about. So if you're a believer, I do think, and I told people this before the game, if you like Arch, wait. If they lose the game, then take them. But I definitely have my concerns. I wouldn't put my money on it, but if you're an Arch believer, I think now would be the time to do it.
No, we got bigger problems here, DK, because I don't know if there is enough here for Arch Manning to have the kind of season that would result in being the Heisman Trophy winner. Because while you can stand out for the most outstanding player in the country award because of your star power, I don't know about the stars that are around him right now with this Texas offense, because those Texas wide receivers could not get open against Ohio State. And while Ohio State has one of the best defenses in the entire country, it is a real concern in terms of spinning this forward for the Longhorns. And so as Texas goes through the rest of the schedule, there will be some spotlight opportunities like the Florida game, like the Oklahoma game, like Georgia and Texas A&M. But if he just goes and throws up big numbers against the lesser competition in the SEC, I don't think that's going to be enough to allow Arch Manning to separate from himself. The concern right now is not Arch Manning and winning the Heisman Trophy. It's getting Arch Manning and the offense around him into a place where Texas can go compete for a national championship, because that is still on the table right now for the Longhorns. I just think in terms of him being the individual star, I just don't see it coming out of that opener.
It's so funny because with a star name like Arch, you literally could see in that Ohio State game the odds shifting. You went from plus 700 pregame to plus 1,300 at halftime. Like, we're already moving lines throughout the game. Then towards the end of the game, he moves to plus 1,010-1. And then after the game, you see him move to that 18-1. So what we've done in the sports line model side is a really good job of reverse engineering why the odds makers make the lines that they do. It's typically you have to exceed the expectation of where you're supposed to be, or at least hit it. For them, it's going to be making the college football playoff, which for us is around a 50% chance right now. And as far as that threshold of 40 passing plus rushing touchdowns, we didn't anticipate a stat-padded game for Arch by any means, but it definitely dinks him down to a 20% to do that. So the 50 times the 20 gives you a 5% chance to hit all the check marks you need to hit, and that is pretty much in line with that plus 1,800, plus 1,900 that you're seeing dancing around sportsbooks right now.
Well, as you see here, 8 other quarterbacks have eclipsed Manning after a shaky start to his career. year as a full-time starter at Texas. One of those guys, LSU's Garret Nussmeier, who, as you see, now leads the pack after an impressive Week 1 performance against Clemson. Kens.
Yeah, I mean, not to pat myself on the back, but I was a believer in this LSU team here against Clemson, a little LSU plus the 4.5 here. I mean, yeah, it's a phenomenal game for him. I think that's a great start to the season. I think the stat threshold will not be the concern for him by any means. It will definitely be winning some of these more marquee games in the SEC. I think, now the ceiling is to make the college football playoff. I think if he makes the college football playoff, is able to hit the stat threshold around those 40+ passing plus rushing touchdowns, he is very, very alive to win this.
All right, Nussmeier completed 28 of 38 passes for 230 yards, 1 touchdown in that game that featured 2 Heisman candidates. Nussmeier, though, just outplayed Clemson's Cade Klubnik, whose stock chip did
Danny's
end up falling.
Shambles. Danny's in shambles.
Doesn't know what direction to go.
Yeah, I mean, look, Cade Klubnik was average. And you know who said Cade Klubnik was average? Dabo Swinney, his head coach, said that he was average in that spot. And he's going to go in and he's going to hit a lot of stat thresholds because they're going to run it up on some of the teams at the bottom of the ACC, and he's going to finish with a really good profile that'll probably have him ranking statistically among the top 10, 15 quarterbacks in the entire country. But I just don't think that when it comes to a Heisman voter who watched that game against LSU, I just don't think that there's going to be a world where you're going to go in and you're going to come back and say that is the Heisman Trophy winner. Now, he can bounce back from this. Who knows? Maybe he could even be a Heisman Trophy finalist, maybe the ACC Offensive Player of the Year. But when you looked, and Danny mentioned this on the Cover 3 podcast this morning, it looked a lot like he did against Georgia in last year's opener. And everyone wrote him off there in terms of the individual awards at the national level because you're not bringing your best at the national competition, the teams that are contending for a national title. So, look, they can still win the ACC. They can still make the college football playoff. But I do not think a Heisman voter will be able to get out of their mind what they saw against LSU on Saturday night.
I mean, I literally had written when we're starting to do the math for these, it's, hit the passing touchdown threshold, which I agree with Chip. We have so many games for him to be able to just stat pad. And then it's literally no more than 1 loss to an SEC team. And he already has set himself up for failure. Playing South Carolina will be a very big part of this, but that's outside of the math and the stat threshold. That's the other piece of the pie for Cade Klubnik, and he just cannot get over that hump. We gave him a 9% to only have 1 loss against an SEC school. Obviously, that's dwindling too. So I've been out on Cade, been out on Clemson, but I don't see any value in taking him.
Let's go ahead and get to a name that has risen the odds, and that's Florida State quarterback Tommy Castellanos, a veteran quarterback who potentially exposed Alabama. It's never easy to do, no matter what the team really looks like. His performance, Danny, certainly has led to some Heisman chatter, but I'm not sure he's officially entered the conversation. However, this win, an excellent start.
This is the time to get your Tommy Castellanos stock before it soars even higher. 30-1, I actually think, is about where you'd want to step into this market, too, to get some Tommy Castellanos. It's interesting because we're talking about stat thresholds, and I totally agree there's a history there. But the one thing you can't account for is like electric factory that Tommy Castellanos is as a playmaker. And that is something that people look for. Heisman voters look for those moments. He already had one, and it wasn't really one play, but putting Florida State back on the map with his performance, making a couple really nice big throws, working plays with his legs. I think that, to me, is a huge factor for Tommy Castellanos. Also, thing that he's got. Now, I don't know if Ty Simpson, I wouldn't have had him as a legit Heisman candidate, but he was ahead of Tommy Castellanos, already knocked him off. He plays Carson Beck at home. Cade Klubnik, you just mentioned about, he's going to go head-to-head with him. And then another one, DJ Lagway in Gainesville. He's got that opportunity. He's got all these other Heisman candidates lined up in front of him. If he helped Florida State turn around from 2-10 to in that playoff picture in the ACC hunt, I think that storyline would really resonate with a lot of voters too. Plus, he's an electric player that makes those highlight reel type plays. He's got a great personality. He's good in front of the camera. Things that shouldn't matter when you're talking about the best player in college football. But for the Heisman, it is a reality. I think now's your time to get your Tommy Castellanos stock.
I don't want to be a Debbie Downer on the situation, but he threw the ball 14 times. Like, this game was won in the trenches. And I think the success story of this team will ultimately be on the ground. I think he had an awesome game, but like at the end of the day, you're going to see there's so many quarterbacks in this race this year that are just going to stat pad through the air, which ultimately are pretty stats that Heisman voters are also going to want to see. But he threw the ball 14 times, which is my problem.
Danny?
He didn't have to. They were in complete control.
Yeah.
And one of these games, they're going to have to air him out. And then he'll go ahead and get all his stats. Don't
Danny,
you worry
I'm
about
with
that.
you. I see no weaknesses. 12-0. Here we come. Let's move on. Another quarterback. We want to talk about Oklahoma's John Mateer. His odds skyrocketed after Oklahoma's debut. He had one of the best stat lines, really, of the day, completing 30 of his 37 passes, 392 yards, 3 touchdowns, ran for another touchdown as well. Tell us why we're sleeping on John Mateer.
Yes, this has been my other bit of the summer.
Yeah.
I've been on John Mateer, and if you weren't on him at 25-1, I think this is the time to get on him now as well. Obviously, stat padded that week 1 game. He goes to Auburn to play Jackson Arnold in week 3. I think they win that game. I think they have success there. Those odds are going to get so much shorter if they win that game. So if you are on the John Mateer train, I would get him now at that 14-1 before they potentially beat Auburn in week 3.
How about some non-quarterbacks, you guys? 2 guys whose Heisman stock fell, and that was Notre Dame running back Jeremiyah Love and Ohio State star receiver Jeremiah Smith. Danny, we know it's already hard to win the Heisman as a non-quarterback, but what's your confidence level in either of these guys to really rise back up to the top?
Not real great.
Yeah.
I tell you, Jeremiyah Love, I thought as a running back at Notre Dame, wearing that golden dome on top with a quarterback in C.J. Carr who was making his first start, I thought they would lean heavily on him, but he absolutely could not get it going. He wasn't even the lead rusher on the team for Notre Dame. That was Jadarian Price. Their schedule, I just don't know if he has enough moments either for him to have those kind of Heisman moment type plays. They have a massive game after the bye week against Texas A&M if he goes off against them. But what gives you confidence that he's going to do that? Because Texas A&M has a pretty ferocious defensive front as well. So I wouldn't waste my money on Jeremiyah Love. Jeremiah Smith, the other Jeremiah at Ohio State, another one, a couple drops on that stage. But most importantly, Ohio State won the game. Julian Sand, I don't think is going to steal any Heisman votes from him. I would maybe dabble at him as his odds have kind of fallen a little bit, but he's got to step up and play better for his young quarterback because he vanished on that big stage. Texas last year held him to 1 catch for 3 yards. This one, 6 catches for 43, as you see here. I would expect him to bounce back. Ohio State still is one of the teams that are favorites to win the national championship, which is a requirement. So, but I would not touch Jeremiyah Love. Jeremiah Smith, I would expect some big bounce back from him.
Chip, let's go ahead and end here with maybe who's off the board but rising quietly.
Yeah, not an election year, Jordan, but we got to get into our election mentality. There are 6 different voting regions across the country that the Heisman Trophy votes are split across, which means that if you've got a candidate out west, there is a chance that they would be able to dominate and overcompensate for any lack of attention or love they're getting in the Southeast or the East Coast. And so that has my attention going to 2 quarterbacks. First, Utah's Devon Dampier and Oregon's Dante Moore. Both of these quarterbacks right now are the point guard, orchestrating offenses that look ruthlessly efficient. Utah put UCLA in the worst place, the bad place, beating them up along the offensive line. Devon Dampier showing his explosive playmaking, and Dante Moore really was a lot more of that quarterback that is a point guard, just delivering talent all over the place. I think that both of those quarterbacks, if those offenses continue to be very productive all through the season, they are going to be ones that could get love out west that they aren't necessarily getting in the Southeast. But again, because of the way the Heisman Trophy votes are split up, that could be very significant in the final balloting.
I think if we're to talk about these 2 guys quickly, it's important to remember Damon Williams, too, for Washington out west. I mean, he had a phenomenal stat-padded game in week 1 as well. And if they can beat Ohio State or Oregon at home, which I think they have a chance to go 1-1, he's another guy out west worth mentioning.
Let the campaigns continue here. Guys, great stuff. As always, get some best bets in college football, including best bets for this Heisman Trophy race on the Early Edge podcast. It's a daily sportsline betting podcast. We make it easy for you. All you got to do, scan that QR code on your screen and watch and listen wherever you get your podcasts.